Why doesn't God just give all Christians the infilling or baptism of the Holy Spirit upon conversion?
All right, good.
Good question.
Your turn.
Good question. Greg mentioned when he was talking about this tonight, summarizing it, the book of Acts as sort of this, when you come out of the Pentecostal or charismatic tradition, where the filling of the spirits is really, really fundamental. It's like the book of Acts, and then 1 Corinthians chapters 12 to 14 become kind of the central places where the charismatic Pentecostal folk will turn for inspiration on their doctrine. And in the book of Acts, as Greg mentioned, a number of times you do have this apparent separation of, yes, you're a believer, but the filling, the fullness hasn't happened yet. I'll give you my take on my response to this question. It'll be interesting whether Greg would agree with this or not. If he doesn't, he's wrong. But I would say it's not, in fact, Greg used the words that the Pentecostal charismatic tradition believes in a second experience, like conversion experience and then a second experience. I don't know that I'd quite use that word, because that sort of makes it seem like there's one event, you become a Christian, then there's just one more event, one more experience of being filled. But Greg actually later elaborated on that and said, no, actually that's a way of life. Being filled, when Paul says, don't be drunk with wine, but be filled with the Spirit, Vanessa, double check me here, Greek scholar, but I'm pretty sure the Greek there is an ongoing sense, like not a one-time event, but it...
I would have to look it up.
If you look that up, you'll find that it's true.
It's a present tense.
It's a present tense, ongoing. So it's not one experience, but it's keep being filled, be filled, be filled, be filled. So it's very possible. In fact, I know people who would say that their experience was they were saved, and at the very moment they were saved, they had this sense of this fullness of Jesus. And so for them, it wasn't separated. Other people, you just talk to people about their experience, would say, I got saved, meaning I put my faith in Jesus Christ. I just, nothing really super seemed to change. I didn't really feel that, I didn't. But then, later on, as they're pressing into God, they get this, like what Greg would say, this sort of starting to ooze Jesus. It can happen either way. I don't think there's any rules on it. I think that we're called to always be seeking more of Jesus. Or as I heard one person put it, it's not that God so much gives more of himself to us, as though, we're all just waiting for God, and he's going, well, not quite yet. It's more that, God comes in with the Spirit, but how much of us do we give to God to let that Spirit have full sway in our lives? So I think we've got to be careful with sort of literalizing the metaphor of being filled with the Spirit. That's language trying to express this fullness of life with Jesus, oozing Jesus, as Greg would say. But I don't want to get the picture that God's up there sort of folding his arms, waiting for the right trick for us to get. That's not the picture. God comes in, gives us the Spirit, and then says, how much of me will you let me fill with you?
Yeah, I think God's always pressing in on us, always. But he is, I believe, a God of persuasion, not coercion. He always respects the personhood of people. And so there has to be a willingness on our part to let him in. And I think in some respects it's analogous to our relationships with other people. I mean, there are some folks who maybe are married, but they're not really on the inside of each other very much. They have kind of an external relationship. They're not on the inside of each other's psyche. But as they grow, they begin to risk allowing the person to get more on the inside and share more of their inner thoughts and inner world and fears or whatever. And so you grow into a kind of a mutually indwelling relationship. Something like that, I think, is going on with God. We can sometimes put up blocks. God, you can go this far but no further. Okay, you can go this far but no further. To be filled with the Spirit, this means that those blocks are largely gone, and we're now filled to capacity.